I'm Roger Baker, Executive Director of the Stratfor Center for Applied Geopolitics at RANE, a global center of excellence for geopolitical intelligence and analysis. Learn how you can put geopolitics to work for your organization at ranenetwork.com.
Hello and welcome to a special edition episode of RANE Insights. In preparation for RANE and Nasdaq's upcoming summit on September 9th, RANE founder and Chief Collaborative Officer David Lawrence is sitting down with a number of industry leaders to discuss major compliance, security, and geopolitical issues that are top of mind for global organizations. In this episode, David chats with Ben Colman, the founder of Reality Defender, the leading provider of deepfake detection. Over the past 15 years, Ben has scaled multiple companies at the intersection of privacy, AI, and cybersecurity. Prior to this, Ben led cyber commercialization at Goldman Sachs and was a graduate intern at Google. Ben holds a master's degree from New York University and a bachelor's degree from Claremont McKenna College. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Ben, truly a great honor, privilege. Continue our conversations, and it's a little bit of the Goldman Alumni Club. In any event, thank you for taking the time to share some of the exciting work that you're doing. As you know, critical topic for our conference with the NASDAQ is about disinformation, misinformation. What should boards be thinking about in the current environment? What they should be thinking about on the horizon? C-suites, things they have to worry about. So I thought maybe I would just begin with a little bit of a overview with your biography and how you came to basically become the founder of Reality Defender.
Thank you, David. It's an honor to join the group for this exciting webinar, but also exciting to have you as a supporter and mentor for many years. So my career started working at Google in grad school, and then Goldman Sachs. At Goldman Sachs, I was focused on cybersecurity, commercialization, and strategic investment, what was called the Office of the CIO. And in this role, I sat, I think 5 or 6 feet away from Phil Venable's office. Now, I was a very small desk. If you look across the floor, you might not even notice me. But what was fascinating about my role is that I got to spend literally every day with Phil Venables and Goldman Sachs then cybersecurity team, which we called Tech Risk, which was experiencing all the challenges and all the excitement of a company like JP Morgan. But Goldman Sachs at the time I think it was under 35,000 employees. And within that, as far as technologists, a fraction of a fraction. So we were doing a lot more with a lot less. And it was when we first started seeing analog versions of identity fraud, perhaps Ben pretending to be David. One David is enough. And what I started working on after Goldman Sachs was the same use case for fraud, but different tools doing what was previously analog and now doing it digitally. And so I got together with a few friends doing some research funded with some grants and some support from Microsoft. And it was back in 2020, 2021. And we had this idea of how we can apply AI principles to detect AI, particularly around AI-generated faces, voices, images, documents. And we couldn't raise any money. Everyone said, this is a really interesting project, but it's not going to be something that is actually going to impact companies. And what I learned from Phil Venables, among others, is that if technology, which is good, can be used for bad, then bad actors will figure out a way to use it at scale. And one of my leading qualities is stubbornness. So we were stubborn. We had about 200 investment meetings. 190 said no. About 9 of them said we will invest if you guys pivot into NFT authentication. You guys might remember NFTs were big for a little bit. We said no, and we had one investor who had experience in computer vision and CDNs, which is not exactly what we do, but it was enough to understand the size of the problem, the opportunity of the market. Fast forward a few years, the world caught up to us in a big way. We raised funding from a number of tier one investors and large banks and Y Combinator. We work with and support tier one banks, large media, large governments. We're the category leader in deepfake detection across real-time audio, but also video, images, and text, and having collaborators and partners like you, David, and your team. It's really helping to kind of thread the needle on what we expect to be an exciting year of regulation, requiring platforms to protect consumers against emerging threats within AI like deepfakes.
I'm going to harken back to the early days, Ben, of visiting you as a startup, very much a startup. I'm not saying you were doing it illegally, but you were certainly accessing Wi-Fi from wherever you could get it to keep the lights on. So congratulations in terms of where you are. I wanted to, because we talk about fraud, conversation I had with Phil Venables and such. We're seeing things at scale. Obviously, if you can use bad guys can use technology for bad, they'll do it at scale. Very much, and you and I have spoken about this, but the crimes that are being committed these days in the digital world very much are old crimes. They go back to the Bible. It's fraud, it's extortion, it's bribery, it's you want to call it ransomware is an act of kidnapping, it's espionage, impersonation, disinformation, propaganda campaigns, etc. And but what's different is you're able to do it at scale with virtual impunity, with virtual anonymity from far off places, and the barriers of entry are very low. And you have sort of seen the future, and you've there's a great quote I like to use by Wayne Gretzky when asked about his the proficiency of his goal scoring. He said, "I skate to where the puck is going as opposed to where it is." And so you've been very much doing that, and that will explain why the difficulty in raising money at first. But maybe you can take us into this journey of AI and the term deepfake technology and unpack it for the audience.
When we started the company, we were very much not using words like deepfakes and generative AI. They weren't phrases that were on anyone's mind. We were using phrases like AI avatars and virtual humans. And it wasn't until ChatGPT was launched publicly by OpenAI toward the end of 2022 that these buzzwords became huge. Now, within cybersecurity, there's always been the thought of how you could do attacks at scale. And we're seeing this with different types of endpoint security, whether it's ransomware or APTs or kind of traditional Trojan or phishing attacks. But within identity fraud, it was historically a one-to-one attack. One person could try and hack one person at a time. And what we're seeing within the space of generative AI, meaning that one person or one system can programmatically try and attack a million people at a time. Examples are, people hearing audio on phone calls telling them not to vote by what sounded like President Biden, or videos telling people not to get vaccinated during the COVID epidemic, but also things like programmatic non-consensual AI pornography, where predominantly women, 99% of deepfakes that are pornographic are women. Women's photos are taken off LinkedIn or social media and put in situations that are only limited by our imaginations. And so when we look at the world of AI, the vast majority of use cases are phenomenal, solving for medicine and creativity. But in this very, very small fraction, it's not so much AI on demand, it is fraud on demand. And in a world where tens of thousands of applications are free or very low cost and available on your iPhone or Android App Store or just a Google search away, what's challenging about this is that whereas previously you had to be an AI or computer science expert to commit fraud, Now, all you need is an iPhone. Anybody can do this without any technical abilities. And that's what makes it really scary. The barriers to entry to commit fraud are non-existent, and regulations, unfortunately, have not occurred yet.
So I don't want to quarrel too much with the nomenclature, but I've always found the search for words to describe what's happening we don't yet have it right. So you say deepfake. Maybe you can explain what is happening out there in the world of video, in the world of audio, and the types of what I'll refer to as scenarios and impersonations
Mhm.
that are taking place.
That's a great question. So, when deepfake generation technology first started proliferating, um, it was pretty good, but not great. It was just weird enough for you to give it a double take and say, you know what, something is strange here. And if we were having this conversation about a year ago, we'd talk about things like facial symmetry or eyes or hourglassing or pixelation, different things that are indicators of anomalies that represent deepfake models. But what's happened in the last few months specifically is technology has gotten so great that expert PhDs on our team just can't tell the difference at all. So there's no tips or tricks that I can give uh, on the latest technologies on what an average person, for example, my parents or my children, could do to try and protect themselves. And so what it means is that in the absence of any real evidence, the only solution is to use AI to detect AI. And so what our models are doing are, and taking a step back, Reality Defender is multi-model, meaning we have multiple models developed in-house, updating every 2 weeks, but we're also multi-modalities. So modalities are audio or video or images or text. And what our models are doing is, in layman's terms, identifying different types of anomalies in what's called higher dimensional space, things that we can't really see ourselves, and looking for things that are potentially out of bounds. And what it means is that we're taking a very probabilistic view. We are doing inference, which is probabilistic. We are not doing provenance. Provenance is deterministic. Provenance is saying, is David David? Is this face print David? Is this fingerprint David? Now, we don't do that for a few reasons. The most important one is that we don't want to have to retain our clients' personal data. So we don't need a face print or voice print. On the flip side, it also means that we're never 100% sure. Our highest confidence level is 99%. What it means is that if we see a deepfake of David and we're very confident, we'll say we're 99% confident this is a deepfake. Now, if it's a real video or audio of Ben saying, hello, my name is David Lawrence, we will still say no AI detected. So if we want to be very transparent what we are and what we're not, we detect indicators of AI generation or manipulation, also known as deepfakes. We are not doing any identity verification or validation, which means for our regulated clients, for example, tier one banks or government organizations, we don't need or accept any personal data. We have nothing we can lose, nothing that can be hacked. And just to kind of scare the viewers a little bit, any platform that retains your face print or voice print has probably been hacked. And the ultimate password, the ultimate private key is your DNA. And we saw last year that 23andMe was hacked, meaning that folks, families and their great 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 grandchildren are going to be having the effect of that, maybe not buying health insurance anymore because they're blocked. So we want to be on the right side of history, but also ensure that we don't actually accept any information that potentially could cause additional issues down the line.
Let me summarize a little bit, Ben. In your efforts to solve one problem, you don't want to create two more. And what you are doing here, I'll call it almost executing on simplicity. What Reality Defender is doing through their various modalities is to determine whether something has been created through artificial intelligence and the probability that it has been created by artificial intelligence. Whether you're Ben Colman or not, the provenance of that particular video or audio, you're not opining and you're not keeping personal information. You're merely looking at something that cannot necessarily be detected by PhDs but needs to be detected by artificial intelligence to determine and recognize that something has actually been created as opposed to was filmed or recorded in actual form.
That's correct. And just to kind of add on to that, part of the reason as well is that we don't believe that just knowing David Lawrence's, personal information, your birthday, your social security number, your address is particularly relevant is because all that information is also most likely and unfortunately available online on the dark web. And so our view is that assuming all that information can be hacked, this last item that can't be hacked, which is a representation of a actual real human, is the most important item to detect because assuming that a counterparty can prove that they have your name, your birthday, your address, your social, your tax ID, but their voice has indicators of AI generation, then we could ignore all the other metrics and just focus on the fact that whoever this is clearly AI generated. And it doesn't matter if they know their information, it has most likely been stolen somewhere else.
And so I always find it helpful to understand what's happening in the digital world by rooting it in the analog world, whether it's, in terms of the crimes that go back to the days of the Bible. But I'm old enough, Ben, without dating myself too much with you. There was a time when Life magazine was the paper of record. It would arrive, and my grandparents were subscribers, and a lot of photographs. And I still remember that there was something was exposed. They had Mao swimming in record time the Yangtze River, and Life magazine analyzed it, the photograph of him supposedly swimming, and they found slight gaps. Obviously, I'm sure the intelligence community helped, but they said this photo is a fake, and they blew it up to show that to you. There was a time, maybe at the height of some of the Cold War, UFOs, sightings, photographs, films, etc., and the amount of fake photography. This is not a problem that is new. What you are informing people is that what is new here is I'll call it, the efficacy of what's being created, the persuasiveness of it, the scalability of it, and the ability to detect what is real versus what is not real. That seems to be the message. You talk about fraud, and I actually want to expand because I feel that you and Reality Defender and the company are addressing a broader issue beyond fraud, which is the issue of disinformation and the erosion of trust in our society. And what can I believe? Can I believe my eyes? Can I believe my ears? The potential for, beyond fraud, political mischief, for what I'll refer to as the types of anarchy that can occur, ensue. These are acts, quite frankly, of potential societal influence and destruction, the ability to scale propaganda, sow the seeds of dissension. And since we are working, with the NASDAQ on this, the ability of a company to maintain its reputation in the marketplace, something goes viral about their products, about their people, about their business practices, etc., can have a huge impact on the company's market share, its competitiveness, its stock price, the confidence that customers and, quite frankly, their own people have. And so I just maybe you can sort of expand out with me I'll call it the sort of spectrum of issues and problems that you're attempting to address.
So certainly we look at the world, and I think a lot of others look at all media and communications as being engaged or supported by AI, whether it's now or in the very near future. An example is, we're using Zoom right now, and you're lifting up a coffee mug right now, but in the next few months, we're going to have tools where we can actually show a real version of us, but it's actually not us. It's our voice, but we have an AI avatar talking for us, maybe because we don't want to be on camera or because our internet connection isn't strong enough. And so, naturally, this has first initial use cases for detecting different types of identity fraud. And the clients that are most interested in that right now are large banks, whether trying to reduce identity fraud for customers or specifically wire fraud. So it's either folks trying to impersonate you to get into your account or folks trying to call the bank and authorize a wire transfer as you. Now, it started off with an audio, and we expect it to move into video as not only the generation tools get better at committing fraud, but also cloud compute gets a lot less expensive, and ultimately you're able to do these on your device, which you can't yet do. So within financial services, main use case is around identity fraud and financial fraud. Now, across financial services, but also really all corporate entities in general, are different use cases around executive reputation protection and brand safety. And that's just to say that if you're a bank or a large utility, you're tracking everything that's either online about you or online pretending to be you. And the goal now of bad actors, whether they're hedge funds or fraudsters, to either impersonate an organization or to create a disinformation narrative about an organization. For example, pick your favorite tech company. Right around earnings announcement, there's all kinds of potentially fraudulent social media posts or websites claiming all kinds of things. And so, we have our kind of main use cases within financial services. Then within media, use cases around any video or audio shown online or on TV. We have clients, including two of the three largest broadcasters in the US, using our solution just to scan all media that's inbound before they decide to show it online or on TV. Now, they're also checking all kinds of other things, whether it's honest, whether the content or context or intent have different kinds of insights they can use to decide whether they want to show it or not, or maybe they'll still show it even though it is fake because it's very relevant. Now that's a lot of information, and if you think about it, media does not come from the same source. If it came from the same source, you could focus on, provenance, whether it's watermarking or fingerprinting. Now, given we all have different types of phones, different camera sensors, things come through reputable means, things come from social media or Telegram or WhatsApp. There's no standard technology for generating a video, whether it's in wartime or around an election. And so because of that, tools like Reality Defender are essential within kind of a perimeter strategy, as they call it, to try and establish the truthfulness of a piece of media, which can include the content, but also can include how the piece of media was created and what the kind of chain of custody would have been as well. Now, kind of the last major use case we're focused on currently, and we have inbound from every industry group, but we've been focused on kind of these three industries. First, financial services, then large media. The last one is government. And government is focused almost exclusively on defense and intelligence. So, similar to media, getting different pieces of audio or video or documents or text from sources, some known, some unknown, and using Reality Defender as an additional check once they actually receive something to establish some level of truthfulness in the file itself. Other tools will try and establish truthfulness of the content. And so, when I say we have other industries interested, they range from insurance to utilities to consumer platforms. We're kind of taking a vertical approach to kind of build product market fit in each vertical before we move into another one. The consumer vertical is very interesting in the sense of we're spending time in Washington, D.C. to really try and encourage and support what is very much bipartisan legislation that will require platforms to scan for deepfakes to protect consumers. And we've been asked, why don't we offer our solution to consumers individually? And while that sounds fantastic in theory, we don't think it's fair to make consumers be the arbiters of truthfulness online, mostly because the technology is very complex and very similar to different tools to scan for a computer virus. Google doesn't require consumers to flag a computer virus. they're scanning automatically. And if you look at a YouTube video or social media, whether it's on Facebook or X or other, when you upload it, they're checking for different things, whether it's nudity, violence, underage media. They're also checking for copyright music, for example, the latest Taylor Swift song. Now, they're not doing that because they want to, they're doing it because they're required to. And we see a future where scanning for deepfake media is another check to be able to flag media. Now, not to say they should block it, consumers can make their own decisions, but we believe consumers should be able to see that before they actually decide to click on a piece of media, which if the US follows other countries, whether it's UK, Europe as well, Taiwan, Singapore, Japan, even China, we will have some very simple legislation in the coming months, not in time for the election, but hopefully for the end of the year, which will require consumer platforms to indicate whether a post or a piece of media may be AI generated or manipulated.
We're going to keep going back to this binary test. Is it AI generated or not? And what I heard you say is that basically, through the systems you've developed, you can assign a probability score to a piece of content. And you touched upon something very interesting, which is really whose job is it to discern the truth? And very much heard you say you can't possibly expect the average person, consumer, to be able to make that determination or to have the tools or expertise or quite frankly, or absorb the expense of it. But rather, let's get to sort of, I'll call it, the fire hydrant where the information's coming out. That's the best place, most efficient place. And that, of course, requires regulation. So I want to share a view I have about what it is that, results in regulation in Washington. It's not my unique position. A former high-ranking general once explained it to me that it takes a crisis. And my question to you, Ben, is you've been in Washington. The people, they see what the risks are. They see scalability of it. They see, we'll call it the increased velocity of these deep fakes. Sometimes it's a celebrity being thrown into a deep fake around a pornographic situation and her fans being upset and she's being upset to get attention. What do you think it will take? Because this is not going away, but what will it take so we can start to have some form of I'll call it a systemic response to protect not only individual consumers, but quite frankly, a variety of systems, our companies, et cetera.
It's the same kind of question of, do we still have time to solve for this? And part of the answer is, on one hand, it's already too late. These things are already happening. Most folks just aren't aware it's happening. Very similar to, has your email been hacked? 100% of people, it has been hacked. It's just a question of what percent of people know it's been hacked. Now, the good news is that there's a very bipartisan effort to provide a simple legislation, whether it's through Congress or through, perhaps the FCC or other regulatory organization. Now, we were invited to speak in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee about a month and a half ago, which was really exciting to see kind of both sides of the aisle come together. We had on one side Senator Blumenthal, and the other side Senator Hawley as the chairman and the ranking member. They're all for this, but we're also learning that policy and legislature takes time. And while we're spending time with both sides of the aisle in Congress and in Senate, and really every regulatory organization, we still have some time to go. And so we expect there to be something for the end of the year. Our original hope was to happen a few months ago in time for this election. That did not happen, unfortunately. But the good news is a lot of kind of private organizations and large companies have come together to provide some level of public reference on breaking news that's tied to deepfakes. Now, the challenge, though, is it's kind of always backward looking. It's already, had a fake explosion at the Pentagon, shared but to a billion people on Twitter. Even though we detected it in near real time, it's after. It's already had its effects. It's already led to $100 billion flash crash in the market. So we remain very optimistic, and I think we're going to look back on this period, kind of like when my kids are going to ask us, "Wow, Dad, you used to drive your own car? That's so dangerous. We all have robots driving cars now." But this time next year, we're going to have extremely simple legislation, not just in the US, but in most countries, providing a minimum level of tagging of media to allow consumers to determine if they want to see it or not. They might not care, but saying, this video of David Lawrence is deepfaked. Oh, but it's a permission deepfake, David. Or this post about David Lawrence is a deepfake, which
or it's entertaining, and so whatever. But, yeah. So I want to, in the couple minutes we have left, touch upon something which it always seems, I use the word backwards looking, that we're playing from behind. The regulations get passed, or some preventative technology gets developed, but then something jumps in. Okay, I'll give you a parallel, interesting coverage in the Wall Street Journal, FT, and The Economist around the evasion of sanctions that have been imposed around the chip industry, and now China and other countries, reportedly at least, have gotten around this. This feels to me, Ben, like a non-static situation that constantly is going to require ongoing innovation to at least stay even, if not ahead, of the threat as technology develops.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. But what I would say is that with Reality Defender and deepfake detection, very much similar to all cybersecurity, it's much more a feature than a bug. With our solution, we're very much leading not only on the commercial side, but also on the research side, which means we're trying to predict where different fraud tools are going. And so
Right.
you'll see us at every single conference, whether it's NeurIPS or CVPR or ECCV. So we're constantly proposing and publishing and getting selected for peer review in tools that would potentially look for threats we haven't seen yet, which we believe will start happening. And one thing to mention is we're detecting both indicators of fakeness, but also indicators of realness. Hopefully, realness doesn't change. Now, fakeness is going to get better and better and better. And so we certainly are the right team at the right time. And we're very excited to kind of continue to grow as the threat continues to evolve.
Yeah, and I intended that to be about whatever the regulations are that come down, the need to support the continued innovation. Call it the Wayne Gretzky risk management model. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I can't stress enough is that we are very much pro AI innovation. All we're saying is that in a very, very small percentage of a hundredth of a percent of the use cases, the risks are near infinite. And our goal is to completely solve that issue in real time before it becomes an issue.
And I just want to remind the audience, the risks are infinite, not simply because of technology advances, but because of human nature, geopolitical events, and AI is just sort of, I view it as a portal for human behavior and mischief. Okay. Last few minutes, Ben, you've now been invited onto the boards of leading companies. And what are you advising the boards and the C-suites that they should be doing to protect not simply their brands, customer confidence, I'll call it their workforce, and just sort of generally sustaining their business in light of what could happen?
Our goal is to ensure that our solution can be as accessible and horizontally integrated as possible. And so, one of our opportunities is ensuring that upstream and downstream solutions can package up our insights within their current customer journey or current flow. And so very much how we see encryption integrated everywhere. We believe that detection will be a factor involved in almost any engagement, any communication, any piece of software, any piece of media, any website. Our challenge right now is that it does seem new, but very soon it'll just be a commodity offering that'll be built everywhere. And so to speak to different boards, our view is that anywhere there can be fraud or disinformation or something intending to defame or disinform, tools like Reality Defender will become absolutely essential and second nature. And we look to partners like you and your organization to help kind of educate and maybe scare people just a little bit, because those of us who don't believe it's an issue are going to be kind of a step behind other organizations that are already preparing for the growing threat.
Ben, let me just maybe put some icing on the cake for the board members, C-suite viewers here. I'll call it my personal experience, both Goldman Sachs afterwards, but also at the U.S. Attorney's Office. In sort of what persuades a jury. It's not enough to detect that something is wrong. It's been created by artificial intelligence. It's a deepfake. The ability in the communication strategy to point to an independent and trusted body that has made this detection and that has actually identified it with 90% probability this was created by AI. This is not real. So it's not enough for Hillary Clinton to disclaim that that is not a video of her, stumbling and mumbling and appearing to have a stroke, but the ability to have a trusted independent source. And that's what's been missing a lot in the marketplace. Where can people trust? Whom can they trust? When someone is speaking, can they trust that body, that firm, that entity, that individual? And of course, if you've been reading the polls from Gallup and Pew, et cetera, there has been broad erosion of institutional trust, particularly, towards the government, that has to be restored. But I always, and this is why I'm excited about what you are building and trying to build, is it's not just detection technology, but basically a trusted platform so that if you do detect something, you can say it with not only whatever probability and whatever confidence, but that your assessment, your assessment will be trusted in the marketplace.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that everything you're saying is spot on. I think the challenge is to doing it in a way that's understandable to everybody at any level of understanding. People might not be as nerdy as you or I, but still the threat to them is still just as high. So really excited to continue to evangelize in this space, and looking forward to continue to discuss the challenge.
You're building a private sector company, but very much engaged in a public service, Ben. So thanks. My last two questions / comments: was the moon landing real or not?
I think the real question is the video real? The video is real, but much like all things we're detecting, our focus is on the truthfulness of the file itself.
Okay.
It does look real to me, though.
Okay. And secondly, have we really been speaking to you or an AI version of you? Thanks very much, Ben. Okay.
Thank you.
A deep fake version of Ben Colman. A great interview. Thanks, and look forward to continuing to engage in a continued conversation. Thanks again, Ben.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this special edition episode of the RANE Insights series from RANE Network. For more content from the RANE Nasdaq Summit, please visit the link in the description.